If you or a loved one is approaching retirement and are looking for a caring community to answer your questions, you are in the right place this morning on KFOR. Every Saturday morning, we offer you the Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities. I'm Dale Johnson, joined by John Kopetzky, Executive Director of Legacy Terrace at 5700 Fremont Street, and Kathy Blythe, longtime radio host on KFOR and longtime advocate for Lincoln seniors. Good morning, John, Kathy.
Good morning, Dale.
We will turn the tables on John this morning. John usually asks questions with Kathy, but later in the show, Kathy and I will talk with John about his path from being a wildly successful radio personality here at KFOR to becoming the executive director at Legacy Terrace. That's coming up on the Aging Adventure after we bring in David Reuter, founder and CEO of Live Well, Go Fish. David and I were neighbors for a while in South Lincoln. David shared his love of fishing with me and two of my granddaughters not long after my motorcycle crash, and it showed me that anyone in any stage of life can enjoy the love of fishing. Good morning, David. Good to see you again, and thanks for joining us on the Aging Adventure.
Good morning, Kathy, John, and Dale. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
David, one thing we haven't mentioned is that you are a past winner of the Jerry Joyce Living Legacy Award a few years back for all of your work with Live Well, Go Fish. I know the folks that were there for that presentation that day kind of got the full story on how this came to be, but can you fill in our listeners who may not know what Live Well, Go Fish is all about?
Yeah, Live Well, Go Fish is we take veteran seniors and people with disabilities that don't normally have the opportunity to get out on the water and fish, back out on the water and fish and boat and enjoy a fabulous outdoor experience with a great group of volunteers. We're a 501c3 nonprofit that started in 2016 here in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we utilized Lake Wanahoo for our excursions.
David, was this something that you conceptualized a long time ago and brought to fruition, or did you wake up in the middle of the night and go, this is the best idea ever?
You know, we had a special walleye boat made that we were going to do some guide fishing out of, and that was the boat that we had taken Dale out in. And by 2017, we wanted to step it up a little bit, so we had the custom pontoon boat that holds up to 14 people. It's a lot more stable, and you can fit the 3 wheelchairs. So, you know, we basically started with just a few people who wanted to go out fishing and boating, and we ended up in what we now call the shipbuilding business. You know, and the reason I say this because, you know, we're second boat. Then we started getting, you know, building relationships and partnerships and sponsorships, and most importantly, friendships with almost 5,000 people now that have been out on the boat.
So tell us how a boating a day, what it's out on the water with you at Lake Wanahoo, what that's going to look like. How does it all work?
You know, it kind of depends on the group. When we originally started with the Legacy, they thought it'd be, you know, a good thing for the guys to do, you know, get them out fishing and stuff. And I think they all found out rather quickly that, you know, the ladies want to go out there and usually outfish the guys. But we started doing some other activities, kite flying behind fishing poles, name that tuna, bobber bingo, just some other activities on the water. And it just kind of expanded to, you know, some of the crazy ideas and some of the crazy stuff we do just kind of expanded into more of a recreational therapy instead of fishing.
Well, you certainly have brought joy, so much joy to so many people, and you're continuing to do that. I would imagine you have about a bazillion stories that you could tell us, heartwarming stories. Can you pick a story or two that particularly sticks out in your mind?
A couple of them that really stick out, and one of them is a gentleman named Bob that just loved to fish. And Bob was I believe he was a plumber out of Wymore. And his wife was Joanne, and they came out on a fishing trip with us in 2017, I believe. And Bob was in memory care, and his wife was, you know, living with him at one of your locations. When Bob and Joanne came out for the first time, we set a new record. The Legacy group just wanted to go fishing. They didn't want to tour. They wanted to go straight to fishing because the fish were biting. And they ended up catching 48 fish in an hour and a half, and Bob was part of that. His wife had written me just about a week later, I got a thank you from her that it really touched my heart on what that meant to Bob, you know. And the next few times that the Legacy brought Bob out, Bob knew me by first name right out of the gate. He would talk about where we're going to catch fish, what we're going to catch, and gave great ideas. I think another one of our more memorable moments, we had a veterans event for D-Day where we had the World War II veterans out on the boat all day long. And we had Norval that had been on the boat for 3 seasons with us, was out on the boat doing his interview and talking about Normandy Beach. But that stuff we had learned over the few years in building the relationship. Norval was on one of our first boats, on the first boat, and caught one of the first fish we ever had with Live Well Go Fish.
Those are great stories, David. And it probably takes a lot of people to make this happen. Can you always use volunteers?
Yeah, we can always use volunteers with Live Well Go Fish, on or off the water. You don't have, the fish is just a bonus. You don't need to know how to fish. We're always looking for maybe somebody that can help out with grants or fundraising, or, just has a caring heart for the senior community or people that can get out on the water.
Yes, and if they can't help physically, they can certainly help monetarily. I know that would be a big boost to you, and you're able to help more people the more money comes in. So that's, bless your heart for doing everything you do.
Absolutely, Kathy.
So, David, if I know a senior who would love to go out fishing, how do they get in contact?
Easiest way is through livewellgofish.org, or my email is on that directly, davidreuter@livewellgofish.org.
David, thank you very much. I still remember our time out on the water. Appreciate it. Glad you're still doing it. Still ahead, John Kopetzky goes from radio host to radio guest when the Aging Adventure continues. Welcome back to The Aging Adventure. I'm Dale Johnson with John and Kathy. Many listeners know John from his years here on KFOR. John transitioned that experience and his community connections into becoming the executive director at Legacy Terrace, 5700 Fremont Street. Hey, John, by the way, we have an early evening shift that has opened up. Are you interested in your off hours at all?
I'll send my tape and resume over tonight, Dale.
Okay. Start at the very beginning, John. Take us back to the very beginning. You are from Columbus, Nebraska.
Yes, born and raised there, and graduated high school 41 years ago in 1980, and I had a dream of being in radio, and from a very young age, and decided I wanted to attend the University of Nebraska because of the College of Journalism there. We had an excellent reputation, and also because I could get to see Husker football games live and in person finally. So got my degree in broadcasting in 1984, and really my goal was to be the next Lyle Bremser, but he retired too soon before I was ready to take over, and that dream kind of went away because Kent Pavelka got the job. But 1986, I got a call from Ward Jacobson, who KFOR listeners are going to remember. Ward and I had been classmates at the University of Nebraska, and he said, "Hey, we've got an opening for an evening announcer shift here. Would you be interested?" And I said, I'd crawl over on my hands and knees to get a job at KFOR, and it started there in September of 1986.
And how long were you with KFOR then, John?
Right at 5 years. Started doing the 6 to midnight shift, so I spent a lot of time listening to the Royals and Chuck Stevens, and we're doing the football and basketball games, and the Tom Osborne and Danny Nee call-in shows, and we even spun a few records now and then, and did that for a couple of years, and then moved into the news department. Somebody there thought I had some talent for doing newscasts. I'm not sure in what moment of madness Dale thought that was a good idea, but I was newsboy for a couple of years, working with Dale and Greg Jackson in the newsroom, doing the early morning shift on KFRX, the FM station, and then doing midday news on the AM side on KFOR.
To peel back the curtain a little bit for our listeners, radio is one of those professions where you learn to do a lot. You know a little bit about a lot of things. You don't know a lot about a few things. And it prepares you for being a better person on the radio, more versatile, more able to hold a job, depending on what station you're working at, what format, what owner you're working for at the time. But it also transitions well into the private sector or out in some other public position. John, where did you go after KFOR?
Well, in 1991, I had an opportunity to go to work at Catholic Social Services. My faith has always been something that's been very important to me, and the opportunity presented itself to go to work there and assist the staff at CSS. And so I left KFOR in September of 91 and spent the next 10, 11 years working at Catholic Social Services, and it was an incredibly rewarding experience. Very different than radio, obviously. But spent a lot of time working with our food pantry, the St. Francis Food Pantry, our refugee program, our housing programs, emergency assistance. Just really got to meet a lot of great people there on the staff, supporting a lot of people in the community. And the support we received from our donors was just unbelievably gratifying and really kept us going through dealing with some pretty tough stuff a lot of times. And absolutely a great experience for me. But it was through my work at CSS that I just by chance got to meet Jerry Joyce. And that's a connection that led me into working for the Legacy communities.
You know, in those segments of your life, of your professional life, John, each one, I have known you well at that particular time and had the opportunity to work with you even beyond KFOR. And each one that you were in always made me think you were doing what you were born to do. So I think you were born to do a lot of things, and you embraced the whole legacy concept in about 1 second. It seemed like you'd been there forever.
I had only ever dreamed really of being in radio. And when I was younger, and I went to school for that, and at a fairly young age got the job, working for KFOR, that was kind of my destination job, I thought. And then when the opportunity to go to work for CSS came up, it really opened my eyes to, try new things, step out of your area of comfort and try something different. And, I really think that taking that leap of faith to go from something that I'd always wanted to do, to be on the radio, to working, to doing something that I had never, ever thought of doing, working in the nonprofit sector, huge life lesson. And, I've been lucky to be affiliated with organizations that their mission and their values really spoke to me and to my heart and what's important to me. Again, at CSS and also here at the Legacy.
Well, we'll hear more about the trajectory of your life, John, which is really a good one, how much good you do for so many people day in and day out. And we'll have more of the John Kopetzky story coming up on The Aging Adventure right here on KFOR. We'll be right back, and it's brought to you by the Legacy Retirement Communities.
Welcome back to The Aging Adventure, brought to you by The Legacy. Our conversation this morning is with John Kopetzky. John is usually asking the questions. He's answering the questions today, allowing us into his trajectory to become the executive director of Legacy Terrace at 5700 Fremont Street.
John, you've now been at Legacy Terrace. How many years? Is it like 18 or something?
It was 16 years in February of this year.
Okay. Congratulations. That's awesome. You were telling us a story off air that we want you to share on air about how the connections in life that sometimes just come from out of nowhere. And you had a connection with CSS and Legacy that you didn't even know about at the time.
Well, back when I was at KFOR, the person who was running CSS at the time had this opening, and he reached out to some people in the community. Who do you think, do you have any names to suggest? And one of the people suggested, among other names, suggested my name. And so because of that, I got the interview and ended up getting the job at CSS. And when I'm at CSS, one of the things I did was rent some office space, and that's how I got to know Jerry Joyce. We rented office space in his building there at 8101 O Street. So that's because of CSS, I have the connection with Jerry. After I'd left CSS, I was working at Cedars for a few years, and Jerry had an opening for executive director at Legacy Terrace. And he called me, and because of that connection, I was able to get hired here at Legacy Terrace. And who do you suppose was one of my residents here at the Terrace, but the person who originally suggested my name for the position at Catholic Social Services? So it was the circle of life. I mean, it was just really kind of funny. And that said to me that a message from the Almighty that, okay, this is supposed to be, you're at the place where you need to be, John. It was good confirmation for me going into a profession that I had really no prior knowledge of in retirement living.
And not are you only overflowing with compassion, but you also are pretty funny. You have a penchant for practical joking, and I think that is just another thing that makes you so beloved. You're still doing that. Please tell me you're still a practical joker.
Oh, heavens, yes. Life is too short not to have a little fun along the way. And I will have to confess, when I left radio to get into the nonprofit world, I suspect my coworkers at CSS in those early days wondered, who is this guy and what a goofball he is? And but I always say, life is too short not to have a little fun along the way. You've got to get things done, absolutely. But no, a person needs to laugh every now and then. And I begin my staff meeting every week with a really, really bad pun. In fact, at our staff meeting a couple of weeks ago on Wednesday morning, my thought for the week was, I saw a very short person scaling down a prison wall. It was a little condescending. That awful.
And away went the meeting after that, huh?
Absolutely.
Oh, John. And you're also able to use your radio skills and your communication skills, because there have been many ways you have been able to do that through the Legacy Retirement Communities. You've done video work and you MC their events. And so you've still got that radio guy in you.
Yes, I'm just a recovering radio guy like so many other people. And I always say the Lord gave me a big mouth, and I'll put it to work if somebody wants me to speak.
John, it's not going to be too long now before you become a grandfather. And let's also talk about your daughter, who is going into studying senior living. Give us your joys. Give us your joys, John.
Oh, a big joy in our life right now is the first Kopetzky grandchild on the way. My oldest daughter, Megan, and her husband, Alex, are expecting in mid-November. This will be the first grandchild. And we recently, if we can believe what we see on the ultrasound, we're going to have a grandson. So, yeah, we're pretty excited about that. And, my youngest daughter, Emily, is studying gerontology. She, like all of the Kopetzky girls, for some reason, got a job as a server in the dining room at one of the Legacy communities at one point in their life. And she enjoyed it so much that she decided she wants to be working with seniors to make that her career. So she is going to be a junior at the University of Nebraska at Omaha in the gerontology program. My second oldest daughter, Catherine, and husband, Sean, they're newlyweds as well. They live in Omaha, and Catherine's a school teacher, as is Megan, my oldest daughter. Daughter number 3, Ellen, is a teacher in Olathe, Kansas, just outside of Kansas City. So 3 teachers and a gerontologist in the Kopetzky family as far as the girls go.
And the lovely Patty, who helped you every step of the way. Been
Absolutely
your support.
every step of the way. I really outkicked my coverage when I married her. She's been an absolute saint by my side and has enriched my life in so many ways over the last 33 years.
There you go, John. You got to use a football reference before our conversation was over.
Bingo.
There you go. You haven't lost it. Keep that personality, John. Thank you so much. John joins us every Saturday morning along with Kathy Blythe for The Aging Adventure. John, Kathy, we'll talk again next week.
We will. Great job, John.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Dale. We'll see you next week.
Every Saturday morning we get together to talk about retirement life on The Aging Adventure. I'm Dale Johnson.